Okay, so our next speaker up, I hope he's here, is, a young man called John Stewart. Is John here today? Yes, he's making his way through the crowd, and John is the National Trust General Manager for the Peak District, so he's got a huge job, and a very tough job as well. And as you know, I'm sure, it's already been mentioned today about the plastic hen harrier incident. John was involved in that, and it was John and his organisation, the National Trust, that took the very brave decision to withdraw grouse shooting licences on some of their land. I'm sure John can tell us more about that, so over to John for the next presentation. Thanks very much.
Right, well yes, I'm John Stewart, I'm the General Manager for National Trust in the Peak District, and it's great to see lots of people here today enjoying the Peak District National Park. I hope some of you afterwards will go and have a nice walk up there and enjoy the beautiful landscape. I want to take a slightly different tack on this, and I want to talk about can the hen harrier be a symbol of renewal in our countryside, and if so, how can a body like the National Trust help with that? So, looking at where are we? And I think we're in a time of change and a time when we can shape our future. It was interesting to see the Rio Games just starting, where there was a real emphasis on environment and climate change in the opening ceremony, not so much on expensive showiness. And we've just had Brexit. Now, whether you were euphoric about that or devastated, or in fact whether bizarrely it maybe passed you by, I don't know. But what it does mean is that there's a new chapter in our country. And I think we need to ask ourselves, what sort of country and baton do we want to pass on to our children? And I hope a big part of that will be the health of our environment. And apart from its intrinsic values, ultimately all our economic activity and its health, and it depends on it, and it's of massive social importance to our bodies, to our mind, to our spirit, as individuals, as groups of friends and relatives, and as communities. So I think it should be a really important part, but where are we with it? Well, I think the hen harrier symbolises silently and very eloquently the fact that things are far from well. Despite great efforts over the last few decades and some great achievements, I can think of things like the Searle bunting down in the southwest of England, where some public support, advice and farmers willing coming together has actually led to an increase in the population. I can think of the reintroduction of the red kite, which is now spreading over England. I can think of the otter moving into rivers that have got better water quality over recent decades. And I can think of the pine marten coming out of Wales because there's less persecution of that species. But I can also think there's a lot wrong with our wildlife and biodiversity. And even here in a national park, we can look at the record on hay meadows, where even since the 80s, from a completely parlous situation, we've still lost about 90% of what was a very small remaining bit. If I think about farmland birds, and I think we put a lot of money into farmland birds over the last few decades, but they're still in a pretty poor state. And of course, if I think of birds of prey, and I think about the hen harrier here, and I think things are wrong. You know, in the national park over the last 10 years, we've seen declines in birds of prey in a national park. And we think that overall in the last 70 years, there have been big declines. And for some species like the hen harrier, that's been going on a lot longer. And the National Trust have recognised this is our big challenge for the 21st century. So what is the National Trust and what does it matter, you might ask? And sometimes people get a bit confused about us and what we stand for, so let me try and make it clear. The National Trust was founded in 1895 on a very simple and enduring idea that people need historic, beautiful and natural places. And we're now the largest conservation and access charity in the country, with 4.2 million members, to look after these special places forever and for everyone. What stirred us then at the beginning and what stirs us now is aptly summed up by one of our inspirational founders, Octavia Hill. And she said, the need for quiet, we've got that, the need for air, the need of exercise, and the sight of sky and of things growing seem human needs common to all men. And I could have women now, I'm surprised she didn't. But, and being here, I'm sure most people, not everyone here, understands that deeply in themselves and appreciates it. It's really important. It's about the way it's not just about money, it's about what we are. Now we can have a big influence as a landowner National Trust. We've got about 257,000 hectares of land. We've got 775 miles of coast. On our big houses, we've got about 500 houses. A lot of them have gardens and parklands. We've got 76 nature reserves. And we manage some of this in hand, but we also tenanted a lot of it out. So for example, we've got 1,800 agricultural tenants, and as you all know, here locally we've got some grass tenants, though one less than we used to, or will be soon. We can also reflect the views of our membership. That's 4.2 million people, that's a lot of people in Britain. And we can also reflect the needs of the nation, because we were set up on behalf of the nation. And I think, though, what a different tack I would like to see us sort of introduce into this sort of meeting today is about working with people and recognising the wide diversity of interests. We can show there are win-win ways forward. So I think we've got a unique take as a conservation body because of the large number of tenants that we work with. Others don't have that so much. And I think those people will often reflect the other private landowners and managers around the country who we need to influence because they influence most directly what happens in the British countryside. So, what is our role in the 21st century? Well, we've been thinking about this a lot, and we published a new strategy in 2015 called Playing Our Parts, which you can go and look online and you will find. And it just has 4 simple outcomes in it. The first was we need to look after what we've got, and we've got to conserve the special places that we've got. But particularly, we need to go beyond that. We need to restore a healthy and beautiful natural environment, and that is why we're here today. This is all part of doing that. We also want to provide experiences that move people, teach and inspire. And I think if we had hen harriers here, more in the Peak District, a lot of you and a lot more people would feel inspired about the Peak District. And then finally, we want to help people look after the places where they live, because we're not stupid enough to think that special places only occur when you enter a National Trust place. We've all got our own special places close to our homes, they mean a lot to us. But I think an interesting thing about this place that Mark referred to was, actually this is quite a local place to millions of people at the Peak District National Park. It is their local place. The people come from Manchester and Sheffield and other conurbations roundabout. But that's all fine words. How does it translate into action? And I think, we got ahead of the game in the Peak District. We've been doing our new strategy in the Peak District for a few years now with our High Peak Moors vision, which again is available from all good internet search engines. You can find that. I'll show you a thing there. That's a little document on the vision if you want to look at it. And what we did there is we took stock of where we are on the 10,000 of hectares out there of moorland that we look after in the heart of Britain's first national park. We reminded ourselves what is our purpose, conservation and access, and translated that into guiding principles for the management of the land we own and care for. We consulted widely on how we would go forward, including crucially with our tenants. We published our vision in 2013. And this was all about creating an inspirational 21st century landscape of moors with restored and healthy natural habitats, a model for how the uplands can be and how we can provide loads of public benefits, and those that are based on constructive and forward-looking partnerships with our tenants, communities and others. And we illustrated this in that document I just held up with a simple description of what you might see if it all goes right, and some of it is and some of it isn't. First thing was securing healthy blanket bogs. A lot of the land up there, up on the plateau, is blanket bog. And as well as being brilliant for wildlife, we've learned over the last decade or so that it's extremely important for things like carbon storage, which is all about mitigating climate change. It's extremely important for water quality, and we all fundamentally need water. And it's extremely important for things like flood protection. So we think by managing our land sensitively, and Mark talked about some of the issues there, we can actually improve all these wide public benefits for the whole nation, not just about wildlife. And we're doing some great things up there. For those of you who are Kinder Scouts and maybe haven't been up there for a few years, go there now, because you'll be pleasantly very shocked at what it looks like. Because we've managed to restore a vegetation cover over there quite dramatically in about 5 years. So it's a brilliant thing. We also said, one of our 5 things, we want the full range of native wildlife, including birds of prey. And we explicitly said birds of prey because of the issues that have been on National Trust land over the years. And we want to be very clear, unambiguous, the National Trust believes that birds of prey are a big part of having a healthy natural environment going forward. We also said we want to see more trees and shrubs in the valleys and cliffs, and we've been doing some really good stuff over that the last couple of years. We here, most of us, and there's one or two I've seen, won't see the benefits of this. It's maybe people who aren't even born yet are going to see the beauty of these woodlands in the future, and that shows what you've got to do with nature. You've got to take a long-term approach, a long-term vision. But it's also about people, and there are two other objectives with it. People being inspired, and I know you would all be inspired if you could see more hen harriers out there, inspired by these moorlands, and people looking after them, and that includes our tenants, people who are working with us to look after the nature and all the other values of these moors. So our tenants signed up to this vision, and we've worked in partnerships like Moors for the Future. We even had an early success with hen harriers breeding in 2014, which was absolutely brilliant. Unfortunately, they haven't bred since, but they will again. But we have other problems as well, and as was referred to, we had to terminate early one of our tenancies because we didn't think one of our tenants really was committed to our vision. And I think that's the crucial thing, really. What people need to understand is we're serious about achieving good things for nature and people and access on National Trust land. And that is an example of us putting our money where our mouth is. So this translating into action, it's all about restoring a healthy, beautiful, natural environment. And we think that's good for everyone in the end. So, what about the future? Well, I think we need some vision and direction and a holistic approach to things. We can't restore the future of hen harriers in isolation. The Trust is setting out what it thinks the way forward can be, and we're trying to lead by example, working with partners like our tenants. As well as the High Peak Moors vision, we've got 7 other landscape-scale partnership projects around the country. And as well as doing real change on the ground, we're looking to these projects to be the beacons, the places we will take people to and talk about, to inspire and influence and explain what we're trying to achieve. We're also, and this is very recent, hot off the press, putting out 6 principles for how we think the nation should support land managers going forward. We're calling for a system that increases the benefit to the public of a beautiful natural environment rich in wildlife, and that secures the long-term health and productivity on which our farming and land management depends. And these 6 principles, I won't go into the detail, but they are: public money should pay for public goods. It should be unacceptable to harm nature, but easy to help it. Nature should be abundant everywhere. We need to try better outcomes for nature, thinking long-term on a big scale, like we are on the High Peak Moors. People who deliver the most public benefit who manage land should get the most support. And we must also invest in science and technology and markets that help nature. You'll be hearing more about that in the coming weeks and months. But this is the time, as the country reshapes itself, to make these things known, to put these things out there, for you to get involved in talking about what you want to see happen in the country. However, if we really want to restore, and more importantly, sustain a healthy, beautiful natural environment, of which the hen harrier is a valued part, we need to reach out beyond the converted. We need to win hearts and minds where there isn't perhaps a stronger natural inclination to value more wildlife as amongst the people here today. We can all have an opinion, but at the end of the day, the people who own and manage the land have the strongest influence on what happens on it, so we need to work together. We need to understand and value each other's opinions and avoid stereotyping. We need to be open minds to the richness, diversity and greater value of what can be achieved through good land stewardship for a variety of outcomes. We know if one thing dominates, then other things get pushed out. Just think about monoculture agriculture. It excludes much wildlife, including crucial pollinators, which ultimately are essential for agriculture. In sport, if it's winning at all costs, we get drug cheats. Full-on production for grouse can lead to other things being pushed aside and undervalued. So what the question, I think, for people involved in that sport is, can they achieve fulfilment and value in their sport, and in all the other benefits they can bring for themselves and the wider public to enjoy, including the full range of native wildlife? Can hen harriers be seen as a product of a well-managed shoot? Despite the problems, there are promising signs. For example, the focus of the Moorland Association on what healthy moorland habitats look like, and the commitment of individuals and organisations like those in the Peak District Birds of Prey Initiative. Some of you will know about that. And we know the results aren't great, and we know the going's getting tough. And but it is easy to criticise that body. and those involved like myself, we can get downhearted. But look at any successful conflict resolution, and dialogue is key in the end. So I'd just like to end with some questions for you maybe to take away, the answers to which may determine whether the hen carrier can be part of the renewal of our countryside. For those directly involved in managing land, what does it mean to be a good grouse manager, a farmer and a conservationist in the 21st century? As importantly, what do the public think, what do you think good looks like, and what are you willing to support? How interested are people relative to the many other challenges we face in life? We know that environment is often depressingly low on the list of priorities at general elections. What can you do to encourage the interest and involvement of people you know in having a healthy and beautiful natural environment? And if we can get positive answers to these questions and more common ground, then the future for our children and the harrier and much other wildlife in the UK can be much brighter. The National Trust is committed to playing our part in finding positive answers to these questions. Thank you.